Good morning, everybody. This is Tammy. So today I'm making a video about emotions, the emotions that I experienced during my breast cancer journey, and things that I did to, help me through. Um, so I found um, something that just pretty much listed all the emotions because some of them I had forgotten about. So, shock, denial, anger, anxiety and stress, sadness and depression, guilt, hope, fear, loneliness, and isolation. And I will say I have dealt with every one of these. So most of you who have seen my videos or know me personally or have seen my posts on social media, I was diagnosed with invasive ductal carcinoma in February of 26 of this year, and it was in my right breast. With that, I decided to have a double mastectomy because I wasn't a candidate for a lumpectomy, so I just decided if they're going to remove one, let's just go ahead and do both. And then I had reconstructive surgery. So being diagnosed in February was definitely a shock. I remember getting the call to say, hey, you need to come back in. We saw something that we want to look at. And that wasn't a surprise for me because I had gone through that, I want to say the year before or a few years before. Well, they had me come back in and they looked and it was like, oh, okay, it's nothing. But this time, I went in and they were doing I think that second time I went back, instead of a mammogram, they did a ultrasound. And they did a mammogram as well. But the tech told me, she's like, hey, I'm going to show these pictures to the doctor. If the doctor wants me to get more, I'll get more. So she came back in and she started doing more. And by then, I was like, yeah, it's something. It's something. And to be honest, where they were focusing, I could feel it. And I had, hindsight, there were days where I felt a little pain in those areas, but I just assumed because where it was my underwire from my bra. So I would, take my bra off and be like, oh, okay. So she kept looking, and then the doctor came in, and I want to say she made the comment like that was like, it looks cancerous. So that, of course, had me nervous. And then I had to do the biopsy. So I remember getting the phone call. No, I'm going to be honest. The way I found out was a roundabout way from a doctor who in my primary care, she was, I had seen her for something else. And she made a comment to me that she had spoken to the nurses over in the cancer department, oncology department, and they had a plan for me, that they would be contacting me to let me know what the plan would be to move forward with what was going on. So that was, I'm kind of paraphrasing, but that was kind of how I found out. So I called the nurse. I was like, hey, Dr. So-and-so said these things to me. I'm nervous. And they end up calling me and telling me, yeah, this is what it is. And, so that was the shock. I definitely cried. I was at work at the time. So I cried, and I told my 3 co-workers that were there with me. And I was hesitant on telling my children. But I just told them, like, hey, this is what they think. We don't know anything yet. Blah, blah, blah. We don't know how far it is, like that type of thing. So let's not be too hasty or get ourselves worked up. So I was shocked. And of course, I was angry. I know as a lot of us were or are. we had the why me. And I thought about the why me, but then I also thought about, well, if not me, then it will be someone else. So I wasn't wishing that it was someone else. But of course, I'm human, so why me? Why am I going through this? Denial. I was in denial in between the time, of first finding out, and I was thinking, yeah, maybe not. No, maybe they misdiagnosed or something like that. So I did go through denial for a while. But my anxiety and stress, when I started chemo, because after I was diagnosed, everything started moving so fast. I want to say I was diagnosed in February, was it late or early February? But it was in February, and I want to say by March, I end up having my surgery to have my port put in for my chemo, and by late March or April or something like that, I had started chemo, and I had 6 sessions of chemo every 3 weeks. So that's when my anxiety and stress and my sadness and depression kicked in. You're anxious about the tests and how is things gonna be, because we all know how are things gonna be, because we all know anxiety is worrying about something that hasn't even happened yet. And I was worried about would the cancer shrink, would they be able to get it out, would I be cancer free, all of those things. You're stressed about it. And then I started getting sad and depressed, or I end up having to go on a different medication for my anxiety, and then I was having problems with my sleep, so I was put on a sleep medication as well. Guilt was one of those things that it's tricky. I felt guilty for feeling bad because my doctors had told me, that my chances were great. They caught it early. I got all of that, and I felt guilty about feeling bad because there were people that were going through breast cancer or a terminal illness that didn't have any, chances. They were just, I didn't know that. I had one of the nurses tell me that there are some people that come to get chemo just to keep themselves alive, that they will never stop because that's what's keeping them. And if they stop, they would definitely pass. So they were coming every, for their treatments to help keep them alive. So I was feeling guilty about that. Like, here I am, I only have to do 6 sessions, where some people had to do, I've read where people did 20 sessions, or and then after that they had to do radiation as well. And luckily I didn't have to do radiation. I go this week to meet with my oncologist, the surgeon, and the plastic surgeon nurse to check my sites and things like that. So I felt guilty about that. I felt guilty about, feeling all the emotions that I was feeling. I felt guilt about my children. So it was a lot of things that I felt guilty about. Then of course hope, like, okay, well, yeah, let's get back into this. It was caught early, and things like that, and we're doing the treatments, and I'm going to the doctors, and they're telling me my chances are good, so I have hope. Fear. Well, after this, I felt the fear of reoccurrence. And we all go through that. We all have that feeling of, reoccurrence. I'm pretty sure as you go, it lessens, but you still have that thought because you still have to go and do your yearly mammograms and checkups and things like that. So yeah, you have to do those things. So you're gonna fear, what will they find? What if they find something else? And I feared not getting back to enjoying my life. I was afraid that I wouldn't find happy anymore. I wouldn't find joy. And I wouldn't, just find me again. So I had the fear of just everything that you could possibly think of. And then loneliness and isolation. So I remember sending a text out, or I think I posted something on Facebook that said, hey, if you call me and I don't answer, please don't take it personal, because I'm just still trying to deal with this myself. And I had, when you're going through something, I had a lot of people calling me and reaching out, which I appreciated, family and friends. But everyone was calling me, and it just started getting a little overwhelming because I had to keep thinking about it. And then that, of course, took me into my sadness and guilt and depression and anxiety. So it was a circle and a cycle of just going around and around and around. And I started isolating myself a little bit, which is not a good thing to do. And then I started feeling loneliness. And people felt like, well, you have your kids and you have your friends and you have your family. And there's a difference. I'm pretty sure everyone has experienced feeling lonely, even when you're in a crowded room. And I started fearing being by myself, living alone. I felt like I kind of attached myself to my daughter a bit more, and I started feeling guilty because then it started seeming like it was unhealthy. So I ended up starting counseling again, and I am in a support group that meets on Friday through Zoom. And I just really started talking to a psychologist about dealing with these emotions and figuring them out. And then all of this brought me into things that I started blaming myself, that I should have done better, I should have done differently, about my life being 55 and things that I feel like I should have done, or I started blaming myself for old things with my children, but it also brought me closer to them because I started talking to them more about those things that I was feeling, and to understand what they were feeling and how I made them feel. So, we have to understand that we're going to go through all of these emotions, find ways to deal with the emotions, and get yourself, help. I suggest that everybody that's going through some type of terminal illness or illness should have a counselor, a therapist, and work through whatever you're feeling. So I want you guys to comment and share your experiences. We have some survivors that'll see this. Please share, what you did and how you got over your emotions. Okay, you guys have a great day.